Butter, you're the reason why I am my way. You're the reason why I rip my shirts, why I eat at the buffet. Butter, you got your very own kind of nice. We all live inside a butter world. Oh, butter, gonna eat it by the sticks tonight. Gonna eat out this world. Oh, butter, I'm about to take a bite, 'cause I want that salty cream, what I dream about all night. Butter dreaming, I'm about to take a bite, 'cause I want that salty cream, what I dream about all.
Welcome everyone to a Monday Night Live with Butterfield. We are joined with our wonderful co-host, Mr. Anderson here. That way.
Hey, what's going on, Jay? Glad
And
to
I
be
am
here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for creating Butterfield, Mr. Anderson, and for spreading the word of the meat gospel.
Yes, we try. We try to do our best here.
Yes, sir. We got a great show for you tonight, as always, per usual, high quality, high standards from Butterfield.
Yeah, this is a very serious show, guys.
This is a very serious show.
Yeah, put a lot of effort into every single episode. So if you haven't already, make sure you check out the ones from last week. Last week we talked about the crispy truth about bacon. Should you be afraid of PUFAs in pork? Should you be afraid of nitrates in bacon? What should you look for if you want bacon? And, what's the history of curing meat? We dive into all of that. And if you'd like to learn that, go check it out. We also had an episode on Study Club.
Yes, our study club was the effect of carbohydrate intake on strength and performance and resistance training. So it was pretty cool. I don't want to spoil it, but we're doing it right.
Yeah. Do you need carbs to build muscle?
Do you need my carbs, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, sure.
Yeah, you can just have them if you like them. Don't say it's about muscle.
Yeah, correct. Courtney is joining us. Ready, Freddy. Thanks for tuning in, Courtney.
Nice rhyme. I dig it.
Yes. I hope Homeland Security is going well.
Yeah, make sure you like the video. Whoever's watching this, make sure you like. Obviously, subscribe. Go share this video with someone. Share it with a stranger on the street, and then follow us on all platforms: Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter, of course. Go comment on our post on Instagram. Do it for the algorithm. The algorithms hate us because they want you sick and weak, but we don't. So there's a clear conflict there. And make sure you join our free Discord group for when they kick us off all platforms.
Yes.
That's what we're going for, man.
we're in it. We're in this to win it, right?
Exactly.
And there's going to be a lot of hurdles. All right, jumping straight into it. Let's go. Monday Night Live, episode number 16. Obviously, it's not about the crispy truth of bacon. But what we're actually seeing is our review of Vegan Diets Don't Work. The video from What I Learned. So, housekeeping items. Pull-ups. We are doing Pull-ups March. All our members, majority of our members, or some of our members on our Discord are actually participating in pull-ups. Pull-ups seems to be that exercise that people tend to shy away from. So, only the brave few are standing towards this challenge. The challenge basically started doing 10 pull-ups or assisted pull-ups, depending on where you are. Assisted pull-ups could be like assisted pull-up machine or bands. Hopefully, you've been doing them throughout this month. Our Discord member also does weekly check-ins for our Zoom calls, and you can chat with us over there on Discord. Any topic, anything is any topic, anytime. And to see the progress that we're doing so far, this is a leaderboard as of March 27th. That is today. Astro Treble with 825 pull-ups in the 27 days of March. Rashword with 755. He says he's trying to nail 1,000 pull-ups by the end of the month. We still have till Friday. Friday is the 31st, so he could probably pull it off. Followed by yours truly, Jay, over here, 652. You know, I am motivated and inspired by Rash's words. I'm going to try to hit 1,000 pull-ups by the end of the month, too.
Damn.
And then we got Joey with 595. And then we got Mr. Anderson with 60. And another Andre Zeus with 40. Right? So.
Yeah, at least I'm not last place anymore.
It's tough. It's tough. It you know, my back has been sore, but I actually see that my back has grown. Has actually grown
Nice.
from this. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get to 1,000 too. Don't worry.
Excellent, man. You got like what, 4 days?
Yeah. So
So
my lats are bleeding.
yeah, basically, yeah, you gotta do at least 250 for the next 4 days each days. You'll get there. One day you can probably do 200.
Damn. Yeah. Sure. I will.
And big announcement, next month we're gonna do legs. It's gonna be a leg challenge. It's gonna be the ATG split squat, right, Anderson?
Yeah. Yeah. We can just call them split squats.
Split squats. The split
Yeah.
squats, not the Bulgarian split
Yeah,
squats.
It's just open. Just do whatever split squat you want to do. Simple.
Keep it simple. And a recap of last week. Last week we did the study club called "The Effect of Carbohydrate Intake on Strength and Resistance: Training for Performance." Yeah, we actually opened up with this, but so you know what it is. It's a good episode. A lot of questions about trying to build muscle when you go low carb or zero carb, gets addressed over here. So, our review of what I learned: vegan diets don't work, and here's why. So we're gonna watch this together, but here are some few points that the video addresses. 84% of the vegans quit. Human skulls are shrinking. Can we replace meat? Veganism being harmful to gut health. What is the default human diet? Can science save us from meat?
Science.
The science. And is veganism bad for kids, and much more?
Fantastic. Let's get to it.
Let's jump right straight to it. So here, I'm gonna pivot here a little bit, and then so I want to full screen this. If it was only as simple as toggling a switch. All right, so it should be this. Awesome.
Nice. Let's see if we can get the sound working.
Yeah, you let me know if you can hear it.
Right, nice. No, you can't hear it.
You can?
No.
Oh, no sound.
No.
Go. There we go. Go. Let's try again.
People's teeth becoming so crooked. Dr. Weston A. Price set off on a 10-year journey, traveling to 14 different countries in search of people who naturally had excellent teeth. he discovered something strange. How could crooked teeth be genetic when several parents with perfectly straight teeth had one child with very crooked teeth, but another child with straight teeth? Also, having straight teeth seemed to generally mean that the rest of the face was more attractive. So what made the difference? We'll get to that soon, but interest in plant-based diets has exploded recently.
I like how he kicks off that, and then the topic of that we're talking today is vegan diets and plant-based
Yeah.
diets.
What could that have to do?
But yeah, here's a topic on why. Here's a question: why are teeth getting so crooked? Huh? I don't know if people are familiar with Estimate A Price. But yeah, this he did a pretty good research on, and this is like one of his discoveries, how the human diet kind of influences human dentures.
Yeah, he's even got like a whole foundation after him, where people advocate for a Weston A. Price way of eating. It's even like its own diet. Weston A. Price Foundation, also known as what is it, Ancient Wisdom or Traditional Wisdom, something like that.
Mhm.
They have a raw milk map on their website, so that's very useful. But yeah, Weston A. Price, he sought out to compare civilized diet versus the diet of those, more rural civilizations or rural groups. And to his surprise, contrary to what he was expecting, those with the traditional, like indigenous cultures diets had better formed skulls than those who were living in civilization in urban cities. So why was that the case? Simple, right? But the video will cover it. So do you have the playback speed set to 1.25?
Oh yeah, that's true. 1.25. Here we go.
Yeah. Awesome. But yeah, why are teeth getting crooked? Why do we need orthodontics? And why do we need to get our wisdom teeth removed?
That is definitely a novelty.
Yeah.
All right.
Meat sales fell by 184 million quid. This is due to the rise in veganism.
With the number of American vegans and vegetarians going from 2.6 million in 1994 to 19.8 million in 2020.
Starting today, ready or not, you are a vegan.
Vegan Fridays.
January. I'm vegan now.
Reduce red meat specifically. Yes.
But will cutting animal foods out of our diet really improve health?
A plant-based burger for you?
You really have to.
Can anyone here guess our opinion of cutting out animal foods be good for you?
Yeah. Man, so disappointed to see Kevin Hart advocating for this garbage.
Yeah, right. It's like veganism has the mainstream attention, has the news attention. It has all the communication power.
Exactly. It's it's by all means the New World Order diet. So are you gonna accept that?
Focus on the plant-based diet.
Public schools in Brooklyn, we will be instituting Meatless Monday.
Plant-based at Bellevue Hospital.
But if eating zero animal foods improves health so much, why would a 2016 study find that 84% of vegans eventually quit their diet?
The actor was vegan for almost 4 years, but started feeling lethargic in February.
You were a vegan for a while, right?
Yeah, a couple of years. When did you stop doing that? No, not too long ago.
I was vegan for a very long time, and I've had to introduce fish.
Even vegan influencers weren't able to make it work.
Me and my family had struggled with health on a vegan diet.
I am no longer following a vegan diet.
I found it very difficult to maintain a healthy plant-based diet.
I'm not vegan.
This cosmic skeptic, he appeared on Michaela Peterson's show, right? I think.
Oh, you did? Nice. I don't know that.
So. Sometimes they all look the same, right? But I think there was
former vegans, you mean?
I think a vegan showed up to Michaela Peterson's podcast and kind of like just discuss carnivore versus veganism. Actually, I gotta confirm if it's actually him, because he was very pro-vegan when he was on her podcast.
Interesting. I don't think I caught that.
Yeah. It wasn't that much good of an episode. It's just common vegan talking points. And this is also an interesting thing, right? Like, if you're in the carnivore space or animal-based space or the low-carb keto space, you kind of do hear a lot about all these celebrities, mainstream celebrities to social media celebrities or very public figures who are former vegans. And they'll have their own reasons why their health eventually deteriorates. um, which is interesting because people still get sucked into it, despite all these already very public figures coming out and saying, "Yeah, it didn't work out." The normal vegan defense is, yeah, you just didn't do the vegan diet right. Cool.
Exactly. Which is funny because that's exactly what we say to people who quit carnivore. Just kidding. But you can't do carnivore wrong.
Yes.
And veganism is designed to fail.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So there's that. So there's a difference.
Vegan anymore.
In this video, I'd like to tell you the story behind why I think plant-based is not the best direction to head in. We'll have to look at the rest of this puzzle on straight teeth, the specific consequences of removing animal foods from the diet, the story on why humans may be getting weaker, not stronger, and our rocky history of trying to create brand new fake foods.
She wants advice on how to produce a healthy baby and make sure that it will have good teeth.
Paleoanthropologist Daniel Lieberman explains in his book The Evolution of the Human Head that jaws and faces do not grow to the same size that they used to. For a very long time, it was the norm for humans to have large skulls and quite broad mouths. When the mouth, the dental arch, is too small, there's not enough room for the teeth to come in, so they crowd together and become crooked.
The teeth are forming in the baby's jaw long before it is born.
Based on studies from 2009 to 2019, the prevalence of children developing crooked teeth today is 53% in America, 56% worldwide, and 72% in Europe. So the question becomes, why would the dental arch grow big enough for this brother, but not for this brother? That's where Weston Price comes in. Totally new processed foodstuffs like refined grains, sugar, and vegetable oil were spreading, and these people living in remote areas were finally getting access to them. He found a clear pattern. Those living on their traditional diet were in good health, had broad dental arches, straight teeth, and very few cavities. However, other groups in the same area who started eating these new modern foods developed crooked teeth and had 5 to more than 30 times the cavities of their counterparts despite sharing similar genetics. Dr. Price wasn't just saying that sugar.
So what I find is fascinating about this is just how quickly the human body just adapts to the stimulus of its environment, right? Because normally you would think, oh, new diet, it'd probably take a few years or generations for for you to see the impact of it, right? But no, within the lifetime, suddenly you see your denture is not what it doesn't achieve like potentially was supposed to achieve, right? So if you're not eating the right foods the moment you grow up, what's the cost? At least
yeah.
we can.
Well, even while you're in the womb, really.
Even when you're in the womb, let's take that even further. Let's say you're planning on being a parent, right? How long, how early should you look into cleaning up your diet so you have like the best offspring, the best child, right? Or give your child the best chances, right? What's that 3 months of healthy habits, clean eating before pregnancy, before conception? I don't know. Years?
Yes, probably.
Yeah. I guess the longer you have healthy habits, the higher your chance, your higher odds.
Or processed grains or vegetable fats were evil, but that they were displacing far more nutritious foods. The more modern foods people ate, the less room in their stomach for a highly nutritious traditional diet. Across all the groups he studied, the foods they prized most were nutrient-dense animal foods.
Fresh liver was a delicacy.
No surprise.
From the people of the Outer Hebrides who ate cod heads and livers, or the people of New Guinea who ate dugongs, or the people of the Andean Sierras who ate llamas and alpacas. Wherever he went, he found that these groups eating a traditional diet always prized some form of marine or animal foods.
Eggs, cheese, and butter also contain the vitamins needed for good teeth and bones. Orange juice and cod liver oil are also very important for the expectant mother.
Weston Price noted that these foods were particularly high.
It's very interesting that they're already selling cod liver oil way back in the day.
Yeah.
It's like one of those old things that keeps getting sold, although currently it's pretty mixed, right, Anderson? If you're trying to buy cod liver oil off the shelf or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's high in PUFA, so really all you're doing is buying oxidized rancid oil, and cod liver oil is just a byproduct of the cod processing industry. In my view, it shouldn't really be recommended for anyone, and parents will give it to the kids in spoonfuls, and giving them rancid oil and possibly lots of vitamin A that might be an issue. So to me, it's one of those. It's one of those first. It's one of those first. The supplement industry is not anything new, and that's just like one of the earlier instances of it. But certainly, eggs, butter, and dairy, certainly very nutritious foods. Certainly animal foods. Always at the top of our preference.
Yeah.
In the vitamins A, D, and K2. He wrote that the traditional diets commonly provided 10 times the A, D, and K2 of modern diets. Research later confirmed that, of course, along with things like protein and calcium, these three vitamins indeed work together to transport minerals to support the proper formation of the bones. And of course, your facial structure, which includes the dental arch, depends on proper development of your facial bones.
Milk is the most important food of all and builds strong bones and teeth.
Dr. Price noted full-fat dairy as one of the traditional foods that these people considered valuable. So it's interesting to observe that the Dutch are competing with Montenegrins for the tallest people in the world title, and they happen to be second and third on the list for the most milk consumed per capita in the world.
Yeah, we actually mentioned this the other day, right? About how there's a correlation, or very, very high correlation, between milk consumption and height. And clearly, yeah, he brought this up too as well. So milk is valuable.
Yeah, it's a complete food. There's a lot of effort being put into demonizing dairy in general, and also the very own dairy industry kind of has perverted the awesome nature of dairy itself, by making it pasteurized and having to add synthetic vitamins to it to fortify an already perfect food, right? Only because they destroyed everything when they pasteurized it, or ultra temperature pasteurized it too, because there's different pasteurization methods, which is a shame.
Yeah. And the other thing to note is that there's no distinction, in this at least association between height and milk. There's no distinction between raw milk and pasteurized, homogenized milk. So that's a plus, right? Because finding raw milk is not easily available and not easily accessible. If you have access to it, obviously that's the preference, but don't feel discouraged if all you have access to is from the store.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get the full fat
whole milk.
A study of 105 countries in the Journal of Economics and Human Biology noted that animal food, particularly dairy, most correlated with increases in height.
Take all the core parts of meat, the amino acids, the lipids, trace minerals, vitamins, combine those with water. If we can do that, that's meat to me.
So why would it be hard to replace animal-derived vitamins with ones from plants? Well, I recently interviewed Giovanna Mendoza, who essentially made a career based around her vegan lifestyle.
Vegan meal prep, eat vegan. About the vegan lifestyle?
When she had health issues, she tried her best to solve them while staying on the diet, using all kinds of supplements and troubleshooting strategies, but she eventually had to prioritize her health and quit the diet after 6 years, even though she had every motivation to keep being vegan.
I spent the last 2 years kind of trying to figure out how to make it work for me, because my blood tests were always a little bit low. I would go anywhere with a big bag of supplements. My hormones were not great. I felt a lot of a foggy mind. I felt that a lot. I don't feel that anymore.
Giovanna's case is just a peek at.
I would like to see this full interview. I don't think he has it up, or maybe I don't know.
Yeah, no, he always does this. He always has he mentions the interviews on his episodes, on his great production pieces, but never really puts them out. Kind of gatekeeping.
Yeah, actually, maybe part of his Patreon exclusive access.
Oh, that would make sense. Actually, yeah, I'm not aware if it's included in his membership content, but I can see that making more sense. And we love Joseph's work. We're big fans of the effort he puts in. But yeah, I'd be interested in the interview too. And very tragic to see woman, very influential, of course, built a whole following, 6 years doing it, and she was really struggling behind the scenes, right? She probably didn't tell her followers until the very end when she couldn't handle it any further. And so, it just serves as a reminder. You don't really know what, some person you see on social media is actually going through behind the scenes. And, they have a vested interest in convincing you that this is the way. But, I mean, she was struggling carrying bags of supplements everywhere, right? Feeling low energy and brain fog. That's exactly what the controllers of this world want you to feel like.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, that's tough, right? You're influential, big on social media. You built basically your career on this. At some point, I guess you hit a wall, and you're like, either I come clean or I keep the facade going on. You know, when your livelihood depends on it, basically. So, props due where it is due.
At how complex it can be to replace animal foods in your diet. To understand this, let's start by taking a look at these 3 vitamins Dr. Weston Price was focused on. Take vitamin A, for example. You might think the average vegan has way more vitamin A because it comes from vegetables like carrots or sweet potatoes. But that's not vitamin A, that's beta-carotene, and that has to be converted into vitamin A. And the conversion rate is very poor, about 12 to 1. Actually, it's closer to 21 to 1 because the fiber in plants makes it harder to absorb. Not only that, the more you eat, the worse the conversion rate becomes. Further, depending on your genes, your conversion rate could be even lower. This is the case for me and for potentially as many as 37% of people of European descent. Actual vitamin.
So he's saying like it's a genetic factor, right? Depending on your genes, that really depends on how much you can metabolize or convert the vitamin A from plants into animal form of vitamin A.
Yeah, which is, who cares, bro? Just don't rely on carrots.
Yeah, don't rely on carrots. Don't rely on carrots.
This is a huge lesson on bioavailability, and this is something that all the vegans and their whole plant-based narrative just completely overlooks bioavailability of nutrients. And this is demonstrably proven just by basic chemistry. Like this is nothing out of the world. Nutrients come in both animal forms and plant forms, and not only that, but any nutrients you might find in plants are going to be bound up by the fibrous structures and the structures that the plant forms bound to the fiber. So your body can't really break that down. We're not ruminants. We're not gorillas. We don't really have the capacity to ferment a lot of food and extract nutrition from that. So we let the animals do that for us.
Yeah.
So if anything, if you have the gene that makes you less likely to convert the beta carotenes to vitamin A, that means you were probably, higher up on the food chain than the rest of the people, right? Like you were eating more animals, which is a good thing.
Yeah. Shout out to Oscar. Another great night, I see. Thanks for tuning in, Oscar.
Hey. What's
Thank
up,
you.
Oscar?
Vitamin A only comes from animal foods or synthetic supplements. And a 2021 study found vegan Finnish children to have insufficient vitamin A. And a 2020 German study found vegans to have a lower vitamin A level than omnivores.
Vitamin D.
Vitamin D.
Vitamin D.
Compared to omnivores.
Vitamin D plays an important role in staying healthy.
Vitamin D is only found in animal foods, with some exceptions like mushrooms and some algae. Some people can simply get enough vitamin D from the sun, but if you live at latitudes above 37 degrees, your skin barely makes any vitamin D from the sun, except for in summer.
Here are the spoons for your cod liver oil, Joan. It's extra sunshine for us in winter and spring.
And a 2016 Finnish study found vegans' level of vitamin D to be 34% lower than omnivores. Next, unless you're eating fermented foods, you'll only find vitamin K2 in animal foods. The richest sources of K2 are going to be animal livers, especially goose liver, egg yolks, hard cheese, and full-fat dairy. Unfortunately, New York City made it illegal for schools to serve whole milk in 2006. The fermented...
New York City made it illegal to serve whole milk in 2006. Right, so that's the level of extremity where these I don't know who's calling the shots here, but whatever that's the direction that people want. Whoever wants to take this, banning whole milk.
Yeah, from schools, they're always coming for the kids. They have meatless Mondays and vegan Fridays now. Like, come on.
Yeah, the most easily impressionable minds, people in the most developmental years. You can already see from the beginning of the video, your denture varies. Your denture development varies depending on the food that you eat, right? So what's the cost of a child not having proper food for a day, for a week, for a year?
Soybean dish natto does in fact have a ton of K2, and sauerkraut has some too. Vitamin K2 helps put calcium into the right places like your bones, and it keeps it out of your heart. which is thought to be one reason why higher vitamin K2 intake strongly correlated with reduced risk of heart disease. Speaking of all these nutrients good for the skeleton, a 2021 Polish study found vegan children to have weaker bones and were 3 centimeters shorter than their meat-eating counterparts. A British study and a Dutch study also found vegan children to be shorter. Other nutrients like high-quality protein and calcium are also factors in height. And vegans have to be extra careful to get enough of both of these. Weston Price wrote in his 1939 book, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, "As yet, I have not found a single group of people who are building and maintaining an excellent body by living entirely on plant foods." Even Gandhi tried his hardest to be vegan, but eventually acknowledged that he at the very least needed to include dairy in his diet to prevent his health from deteriorating. But that was decades ago, and since the arrival of the B12 supplement in 1947, people can now rely on supplements. There's nothing stopping high-tech foods like Beyond Meat from fortifying their product with nutrients that can be difficult for vegans to get enough of. Things like B12, iron, zinc, selenium, iodine, calcium, omega-3s, and vitamins A and D. So why can't we just look up all the components of meat and make a meat replacement? Well, let's start with B12.
We know the answer to this, right? But obviously, if you believe in the science, science can just copy nature and give you a synthetic version that's healthy, right? If you believe that, well, you are in for some scary truths.
Yeah. Well, it's we have a question. Oscar says, would you rather be vegan for a whole year or eat McDonald's for a whole day? I don't know well, for a whole day? Vegan for a whole day, or McDonald's for a whole day? I'd rather eat McDonald's for a whole day. Easy.
Yeah, easy.
I wouldn't be vegan. None of my meals are ever vegan. Can't even imagine that. I'd rather have a shitty burger.
Yeah. I mean, and you can sort of like hack it and just get the burger patty, right? But it's just from McDonald's, so you can just get burger patties the whole day.
Yeah. But anyways, back to the B12. Yes, whole day. Yeah, no, I'd rather eat McDonald's. Easy. Back to a whole day. Oh, Jason's here. What's up, Jason? He says McDonald's. At least you can get burger patties. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I would totally not have the bun if the challenge required me to. But anyways, the B12 supplement, that's a very good point he brings, because with the advent of this synthetic nutrient, this allows the human to latch on to the fantasy that they can sustain themselves without, the inclusion of animal foods, without the inclusion of animal-derived B12. So really it's a gimmick. What, you use a pill so you can be nutrient devoid? Like, keep on, It's like, go ahead, cheer you on. Yeah, you have this completely like made up fake supplement.
This component is near impossible to get just from whole plant foods.
So you're eating a vegan diet. You are going to need to get vitamin B12 as a supplement.
You ought to take a B12 supplement. You need to take a B12 supplement.
Most vegans know they need to supplement B12, which is very important for brain function. Yet, one study looking at B12 status in vegetarians and vegans found that 7% of vegetarians and 52% of vegans were not getting enough B12. However, in another study with a more sensitive testing method, they found a whopping 77% of vegetarians and 92% of vegans had insufficient B12, whereas only 11% of omnivores did.
And this is quite common, actually, with vitamin B12 deficiencies, that they will misdiagnose depression.
Because the doctors were just pushing antidepressants on me.
B12 deficiency causes guilt.
Perhaps
So that's a good solution, right? So you lack B12, so you're not feeling good. So what do? You get a medication for depression to kind of fix the problem that your diet could fix. And another point to highlight here is people are obviously stressing the fact that you need B12, you need to be supplementing B12, supplemented, whatever. Even still, people are coming deficient in B12. So is enough?
Yeah, even omnivores. Even he said, I think 7% of omnivores are still deficient in B12.
Oh wow.
So take that, and then there was like 90% of vegans.
90% of vegans, yeah, on B12. So no, man, that's the whole B12 argument should be like just the convincing winning argument. But supplement industry is here to save the day. Let's just patch let's just put a Band-Aid on this via supplement form, so that people keep trying to do the vegan diet.
Yeah. Also, most vegans don't really understand where B12 comes from or how it's made. And it's
That's true.
Unless you're a gorilla, you'll have to eat your own poop to get some B12. And I'm sure some vegans do that and they love it, but it's probably their brains are just like so messed up that they actually crave it. But anyways.
B12 supplements don't work exactly like animal foods do. Also, it can take years to deplete the body's B12 stores, so people can be lacking B12 for a while without realizing it.
75% of vegans are said to be deficient of B12.
And pregnancy increases the B12 requirement of the mother almost 3 times.
Your symptoms started when you were actually in labor and you started to get these pins and needles, and after the labor finished, it didn't go away.
When the mother is deficient in B12, the baby can suffer from stunted growth, loss of neuromotor skills, and permanent neuropsychiatric conditions. Psychologist Kimberly Wilson says that there are over 40 case reports of babies being hospitalized for severe B12 deficiency after being breastfed by vegetarian or vegan mothers. In 2 specific cases.
So you go from animal cruelty to basically what? Child cruelty? So that's a trade-off you're basically doing.
How righteous.
But we're saving animals.
This is one where the mother was taking a prenatal supplement, and another where the mother had no symptoms of B12 deficiency. Despite this, the baby still had neurological issues indicating severe B12 deficiency. This highlights the need to double-check B12 status.
Patient can go in there with symptoms of anemia, shortness of breath, palpitations, fatigue, brain fog, etc. B12 levels are in the normal range. What the patient should ask for is active B12.
This isn't to say it's impossible to get enough B12 from supplements. Perhaps some people simply need to take more of them, or a different type. A B12 supplement might not work quite the same as animal-derived B12, but another possibility is the vegan diet has impaired digestion.
Poor digestion.
Hurting my stomach bloating. Bloated a lot.
Bloating.
Bloated. A severe bloating.
Bloating. Bloated. Like I was 4 months pregnant.
Really bad gastrointestinal issues.
Digestive illnesses like this that were so severe.
My intestines were actually bleeding. Really bad pain after I would eat, get diarrhea, and blood in my stool.
So as mentioned, 84% of vegans eventually go back to eating.
So, there's remember that trend where it was okay to normalize bloating and having food babies?
Food babies. Disgusting.
Do you think that's just like a coincidence, something just randomly generated, or was there actually someone trying over there trying to address the point that bloating is kind of a problem on the vegan diet?
Right? Yeah. Well, it goes in line with this whole body positivity, fat acceptance thing. Like, it's normal to bloat, and it's like, no, it's not normal. That's gut inflammation.
Yeah.
If your lungs were swollen or inflamed, probably be in the hospital. Organ inflammation is not a good sign.
Yes, yeah, it's a bad symptom.
Animal products. But to be fair, it's for various reasons, like social factors and practicality.
You just drink half and half, baby.
However, many do quit the diet because of health issues.
I had strong faith that I could get everything that I needed on a plant-based vegan diet. And you might be confused, like, okay, you ate salmon and then all of your problems went away.
Despite obviously having a lot invested in this, I wasn't able to make it work.
Now, our next guest used to be known as the Vegan Prince.
Even people like John Venus, Elise Parker, Bonnie Rebecca, Cosmic Skeptic, Tim Sheaf, and others who achieved fame in part because they were vegan still could not make the diet work.
Gut issues.
Talking about my gut health, explaining that I've been having some problems for a little while now.
Bloating and a lot of gas, like a lot of gas.
Issues, digestion. I think as many vegans normalize bad digestion.
It's just something that you...
I'm sorry, I just cannot picture what a lot of gas means for a vegan. Just like, I mean, I don't experience that much or at all. So when someone says a lot of bloating, a lot of gas, I mean, I don't understand what that looks
Pretty
like.
extreme.
kind of like normalized when you're vegan. My digestion was just like not great. I didn't feel like I was really absorbing nutrients.
It's understood that a variety of issues with the gut impair B12 absorption. There are various compounds in plants people can be sensitive to, like gluten, oxalates, lectins, and phytates, but simply eating too much fiber could be a culprit. A 2012 study found in 63 patients with constipation, reducing fiber intake improved symptoms, but eating a zero fiber diet completely eliminated all symptoms. As for B12, you need to have a strong...
Oh, we made a post about this, right?
Oh, yeah.
That
Paul
study.
Mason Dr. Paul Mason talks about this.
Yeah, going zero fiber.
It's like the only study with human data that actually looks at a zero fiber diet, and surprise, surprise, all the problems were fixed. So
yeah.
Take that with a grain of salt.
Take that with a grain of salt. Oscar says all of them had like 5 to 7 bottles of pills and fake stuff. Well, yeah, that's the amount of effort that requires to maintain a synthetic artificial life.
Yeah.
Strong enough stomach acid to properly absorb it. And dietary fiber is known to weaken the stomach acid. So the context matters. What else are you getting with the nutrients? For example, there are plenty of plant sources of iron, but plant foods like whole grains, legumes, and nuts contain phytic acid that impairs iron absorption.
Take a bite of the national brand spinach.
Ugh.
Spinach is thought to be a great source of iron, but you can only absorb 2% of it because of the oxalate in it. Then, where the heme iron in animal foods is very easily absorbed, the non-heme iron in plants and supplements is quite poorly absorbed. 2 different literature reviews suggest that vegans are at greater risk for iron deficiency than omnivores. Now, before we continue, why should we assume a meat-containing diet was the natural default for humans rather than a plant-based diet? Well, to get a wide variety of nutrients, vegans have to eat a huge variety of modern fruits and vegetables. But the fruits and vegetables early humans had access to were nothing like modern ones. Before cultivation, they had far less actually edible material, and they were far more fibrous and filled with seeds. Paleoanthropologist Daniel Lieberman has said that the sweetest fruit available would have been no sweeter than a modern-day carrot. And we have stable isotope studies finding we ate...
Carrots are not sweet at all, by the way.
They're mildly sweet. Come on.
They're mildly sweet? I mean, I guess just to picture in your head, like, yeah, fruits, I guess, are not really that sweet at all, normally.
Pretty much whatever meat we could get our hands on. And our earliest art is cave paintings of hunts. Further, our stomach acid is very suited for digesting meat at a strong pH of 1.5. It's even stronger than carnivores like cats or dogs. Lastly, the brain is a disproportionately energy-expensive organ, hogging 20% of our oxygen and calories. Our guts, which were also energy expensive, shrank in size to allocate more resources to the brain. Thus, to fuel our big brains, the more energy-efficient animal fat became favored over fibrous plants that took time and energy to chew and digest. Most people are not aware that animal foods are packed with far more of a huge variety of nutrients, especially ones critical for brain function. Things like
this is so key. This is so key because, when you go carnivore, people ask you, where do you get your nutrients? And it's like, come on. Literally all nutrients are in animal foods.
Yeah, like when Joe Rogan was doing the carnivore diet, he's like, I'm still taking a multivitamin and all these pills just to cover my nutrients. It's like, bro, people have no idea just how nutritious animal foods are, and that's on purpose.
Yeah. I really like this picture because it pretty much illustrates like the long list. And this is obviously, it's not an all-encompassing list because there's way even more with weird compound names. But yeah, no, it's a good picture.
Packed with far more of a huge variety of nutrients, especially ones critical for brain function. Things like iodine, iron, zinc, B vitamins, vitamin D, vitamin A, DHA, and choline would have been near impossible for early humans to get from plant foods. This may have a role in why a 2021 study found that people who don't eat meat have a significantly higher risk of depression and anxiety.
I tried salmon. I had 8 ounces of salmon, and I woke up the next morning with 0 brain fog, 0 migraine. I felt the best that I had in probably like 3 years.
Was vegan for a very long time, and I've had to introduce fish because my brain wasn't functioning properly.
In fact, if you eat all the parts of a ruminant like a cow, you can get every single essential nutrient, even vitamin C. You can get a little bit from the liver and adrenal glands. But of course, plants are a much better source of vitamin C.
I've been on a pure carnivore diet.
I only eat meat for the last 5 years.
All animal products, all the time. That's it.
Me.
Can I get 16 just plain patties by themselves?
Dr. Sean Baker, the OG. Well, he's
shout out Sean Baker.
Yeah, shout out to Sean Baker. I found out the carnivore diet through him 5 years ago.
Oddly enough, recently some people are eating only animal foods for years without any identifiable nutrient deficiencies, at least so far.
I don't think there are any risks to eating animal foods exclusively.
I'm not saying 0 plant foods is the healthiest diet, but it shows how nutrient dense.
Yeah, Paul Saladino. No, that was pretty tough to see. I saw him getting roasted by like that group of medical people or pretend medical people, and even like a judge or a legal person. It was a tough situation because basically it's basically mainstream media attacking one person on the carnivore belief. Back then he was like actually a genuine carnivore. Now he's Paul Saladino, fruit-based carnivore.
Mm-hmm.
Animal foods are. The people eating the traditional diets did eat a few plant foods, but they just weren't nearly as important to them as the animal foods. That said, fruits and vegetables can be a great source of nutrients like vitamin C or manganese and important electrolytes like potassium and magnesium. Actually, the people of the high Andes identified kelp as a very mineral-rich food. The peoples Weston Price studied had an intuitive understanding of the importance of nutrient-dense foods, especially in pregnancy and childhood. Even without a nutrition label, they knew that certain animal foods encouraged proper, robust growth.
Fresh liver was a delicacy at the end of a hunt, and the juicy entrails might please the young one.
In fact, before pregnancy, they would commit to a period of special feeding, usually lasting at least 6 months, where they would eat various animal foods dense in fat-soluble vitamins and other nutrients, things like fish eggs, meat, and high-fat dairy.
I had many vegan family friends.
So that kind of answers our question, right? If you're planning on being a parent, here you see like a tradition of before getting pregnant, before conception, 6 months before that, eat a lot of meat, eat a lot of eggs, eat a lot of fish, eat a lot of dairy. Makes sense.
Makes sense.
They started experiencing and observing some things in their kids that they were not really happy about: gut issues and dental issues and growth-related issues. I was in an event and I saw, some children that didn't have the most optimal characteristics for their age.
As Michael Pollan has argued in his book, Defense of Food, we frequently fall victim to this concept of nutritionism, that we don't necessarily need whole foods, we just need their components. But certain supplements illustrate how it's a lot more complex than that. According to a 2012 study, despite taking prenatal supplements, 58% of pregnant women had iron levels below normal. Choline is a critical nutrient for brain function, and one study estimates 90% of Americans aren't getting enough. A 2019 study found choline from egg yolks to be far better absorbed than choline from the common supplement choline bitartrate. Just 150 calories of egg yolk will give you over 100% of your requirement.
That's like 3 or 4 eggs.
Yeah. You have 58% of pregnant women who were still supplementing iron were deficient in iron. Crazy.
Yeah. It's all that whole food matrix effect, right? There's so many other nutrients out there that work harmonistically with all the other rest of the nutrients that improve the absorption and improve body's use of these absorptions. It's not one single compound solution.
Exactly.
Come on, bro. The calcium in milk helps bones grow.
One study found that while dietary calcium reduced the risk of heart attack, calcium supplements increased the risk. Calcium can be hard for vegans to get enough of without supplementation. This 2020 study found vegans had weaker bones and a 43% higher risk for fractures than omnivores. I'm not saying all supplements are just bad. They indeed have been found to help people reach the appropriate intake of certain nutrients. I take some specific supplements myself. The point is there can be issues with relying on supplements, but we can't just assume something is healthy just because it's natural. After all, untreated water is very natural, but it's a great way to get dysentery.
I was wondering what kind of water I was going to drink at Burning Man. I got 50 gallons. It was just epic.
Right. To look at a different way to think about it, let's rewind back to 1932. Dr. Francis Pottinger had been trying to formulate a healthy diet for his laboratory cats. He assumed he had all the components necessary for a proper cat diet: raw milk, cod liver, and cooked meat and organs. Yet, for some reason, his cats seemed to suffer from nutrient deficiencies. At some point, he had so many cats that he had to cut corners. He started giving some cats their meat raw. Within a few months, though, these raw meat-fed cats and their kittens were clearly healthier than the cooked meat-fed cats and kittens.
This is a wrong...
Whoa. This is an argument for the pro raw meat eater.
Yeah, they always bring this one up. Pottinger's cats.
Oh, man, love it.
A meat animal with the full, round face. Notice the firm gingiva, the normal coloring tones, the beautiful broad mouth. A later examination of the skull showed a firmly developed zygomatic arch.
This prompted Pottinger to conduct a 10-year study to puzzle out the effect of cooked versus raw meat on hundreds of cats. He found that the cooked meat cats consistently had health problems, but the problems were even worse for the kittens.
The head has begun to flatten and is actually smaller than the comparable raw meat cat. The zygomatic arch is not completed. The nasal development is somewhat irregular. Dental deterioration was also common.
Their kittens were born underweight with brittle bones. Their teeth were crooked and crowded. They had allergies. Then, all these problems were even worse for their kittens.
Pronounced exhaustion was a typical observation among the third generation of cooked meat kittens. The skull is considerably smaller. The bones are paper-thin and soft like sponge rubber.
In fact, the third generation of these cats didn't survive more than 6 months.
The cooked meat cats were unable to successfully reproduce after the third generation.
So the thing is, initially, the deficient cat diet seemed not too terrible. Sure, the first cats had some problems, but the bigger problems started to appear in the kittens. Then the full picture of just how inappropriate this diet was appeared a generation later. By the way, there was some leeway. If the diet was at least 50% raw, then the cats developed well. But the point is not to say that we need to eat raw meat. We're not cats. The point is, it's not about what's natural. It's about track record. It's easy to observe the effect of a diet in cats quite quickly. In just 10 years, Pottinger got a grasp for the track record for these 2 cat diets. With humans, it takes far longer to see the generational impact of a diet. But whatever.
Yeah, humans are way more resilient, right? That's how you get 300, 400-pound people super obese. That's the body's resilience to like just staying alive despite all the junk, right? Because in order for you to get to that weight, you're not really eating any healthy foods, yet you still remain like alive. So
exactly,
it's resilience. Yeah, humans are super resilient, which works for our advantage and disadvantage. Disadvantage being, like he's pointing out here, takes much longer to figure out you've been doing it wrong because, you're not dying right away.
Yeah, we're not cats,
We're not cats.
It's possible our adaptation also had to do something with including cooked foods.
Yep.
And some raw, of course. Nothing against raw meat. I just don't try having a raw brisket. Good luck.
Yeah. Slow cooked brisket versus raw brisket. One's definitely tastier than the other.
We've been eating the past couple decades already has a pretty bad track record. Like the cats, some markers of our health seems to be worse with each generation. Something about our modern environment is leading to all kinds of problems. Dr. Sandra Kahn and Paul Ehrlich have written a book called Jaws, The Hidden Epidemic, about the epidemic of small dental arches leading to crooked teeth and constricted airways. This then leads to breathing problems like sleep apnea that take a huge toll on health. There's been a tripling in peanut allergies. Prevalence of ADHD has steadily increased over the past 20 years. Incidence of depression in 12 to 25-year-olds has more than doubled since 2008. But when it comes to diets, we know of one that has a good track record. Maybe you've heard of the term diseases of civilization, which refers to heart disease, cancer, osteoporosis, diabetes, and so on. Anthropologists can tell you that before agriculture came along, hunter-gatherers very rarely had any of these afflictions that are so common today. They also had robust skeletons and broad faces that allowed for straight, cavity-free teeth. If the dangers of living outdoors without the aid of modern medical care didn't kill them, they lived quite long and without chronic disease. As the name hunter-gatherer would suggest, all parts of fish and animals were very valued in their diet. In the late 1800s, Plains Indians were the tallest people in the world. And according to an anthropologist at Ohio State University, they had a remarkable record of nutritional and health success. They ate tons of wild game and bison and preserved what they couldn't fit in their stomachs as jerky or pemmican. They would even dry out bison stomachs and fill them with blood to drink when they were thirsty. While that does sound gross, they may have used it to hydrate because blood would provide electrolytes. On that note, let's take a moment to thank the sponsor of this video, Element. Don't worry, Element.
Yeah, I definitely believe that blood is a huge missing component of our diet. And, he mentioned the Plains Indians were very tall people. I mean, you can only imagine what happens after you have many generations of people eating lots of wild game, lots of red meat, bison, some the highest quality food ever known to human. You just living in abundance, with nature. Like, of course, they were going to be giants. There's some people argue there's evidence for giants on Earth in the past, right? I don't know about that, but I think we're definitely bigger than we are now. And if anyone's got their wisdom teeth removed or you need orthodontics, it's because modern nutrition has us stunted. I've had my wisdom teeth removed and had orthodontics. So I have a personal bone to pick in this fight because, I wish I didn't have my wisdom teeth removed or the need for orthodontics.
Yeah.
Health. Stay away from large amounts of red meat.
Deleterious effect to our health from red meat. Cut back, you're eating way too much meat.
So the past several decades has been one long push for reducing animal fats and meat and organs in the diet. But plenty of research shows that this isn't really the solution for health.
Cheese and bacon still have saturated fat, so you want to limit them. Cut back on saturated fat.
A huge 2020 review explained that saturated fat-rich foods like whole-fat dairy or unprocessed meat themselves are not associated with an increased risk of heart.
Did we cover this?
Yes, we did. We covered the same study.
We covered this study. Yes.
Yeah, saturated fat, unsaturated oil dilemma.
There we go. Yes.
Disease. And a 2022 systematic review found that the previous evidence that shows unprocessed meat is linked to chronic diseases like cancer or heart disease to be far too weak to make the recommendation to reduce meat consumption.
I've seen headlines today that suggest that eating red meat is as dangerous as smoking, which is just ridiculous.
Yet the anti-meat push has gotten so strong that, as investigative journalist Nina Teichels reveals, a Tufts University ranking system bogusly ranks Reese's peanut butter cups as healthier than eggs, cheese, or ground beef. And lightly salted potato chips have twice the score of ground beef, and chocolate-covered almonds have 3 times the score and are in the to be encouraged category. It's easy to assume that our understanding of individual nutrients is so advanced that we don't need to rely on outdated meat-based diets. We can make replacements. But while the amount of knowledge on nutrition that's been accumulated is incredible, is it as complete as we assume? In 1989, scientists decided that the standardized purified lab rat feed needed to include several seemingly random things like chromium, fluoride, boron, vanadium, arsenic, nickel, tin, lithium, and silicon. Why? Well, they didn't really know what these things did. They just observed that the rats didn't grow properly without them. In 1978, a 6-year-old girl was admitted to the hospital with a serious gunshot wound to the stomach. At the time, just how essential omega-3 fatty acids are wasn't fully understood. The liquefied nutrition they gave her was deficient in omega-3s, causing her to develop neurological symptoms like numbed legs and feet, drastic weakness, and blurred eyesight. Just in 2009, it came to light that the commonly used folic acid supplements may prevent a folate deficiency, but the way it's processed in the liver means it actually prevents you from reaching optimal folate levels. It's like filling your wallet with quarters instead of bills. What you really want is methylfolate. But still, many prenatal vitamins contain folic acid, not methylfolate. It wasn't even until 1998 that the nutrient choline was recognized to be essential. Liver disease, heart disease, and neurological dysfunction taught us that choline is pretty important. A paper from just last year in 20...
Yeah, we covered well, obviously, straight up, eggs, great source of choline, but we also covered it on our topic last week about pork. Pork also providing choline.
2022 suggests that we underestimate the optimal intake of choline. This choline study found that 7-year-old children had better attention span if their mothers consumed twice the recommended amount of choline during their pregnancy.
As so many doctors know when they confidently approve pet milk for babies.
Finally, let's go back to 1865 when the first infant formula was invented. It took many decades for quality and regulations to improve, but eventually infant formula came to be widely regarded as a safe substitute for breast milk, leading to a significant decline in breastfeeding.
Pet milk is a safe milk for babies. So feed your baby the pet milk way.
Pet milk? That's what they were calling it?
That's very strange.
That is very, very strange. Talk about trying to dehumanize humans since the 1800s.
Research has associated formula feeding with children more easily developing eczema, asthma, and food allergies, as well as diabetes and obesity. A 2008 study found breastfed babies to have 5-point higher IQ. Today, the AAP, WHO, and UNICEF all recommend exclusive breastfeeding for at least the first 6 months of life. If a mother can't breastfeed or get donor milk, of course, modern infant formula is basically a miracle. But Dr. Rhonda Patrick has made an excellent video overviewing just how complex breast milk is. It contains 415 different proteins, 200 different human milk oligosaccharides, 200 different fatty acids, 4 different types of growth factors, and that's not even the full list. As recent as 2016 and 2019, 2 different new compounds found in breast milk started being added to formula because they improve infant gut and brain health. Even a representative of Abbott, a leading infant formula manufacturer, admits that
to mimic and replicate breast milk is not possible.
Yes, a newborn will have far more sensitive nutrient requirements than an adult or even a child, but it's an example of the difficulty of trying to make a complete replacement of a natural food. In fact, there are all kinds of compounds only found in meat that we currently assume are not necessary to have in the diet. Things like creatine, carnitine, anserine, taurine.
And just to add on the concept of breast milk too, right? We covered this as well in one of our saturated fat, is that human mother's breast milk will try to give the baby saturated fat no matter what the mother consumes. So the mother's body is gonna produce saturated fat and give that to the baby, even if the mother is not consuming a diet high in saturated fat.
Yeah,
So-
I think like over 50% of the fatty acids that the mother makes are going to be palmitic acid alone, so you brilliantly pointed out that in that episode, the mother is not trying to give the baby heart disease, it's independent of the fat that the mother consumes. She's making this fat for the baby.
Yeah.
So that should tell you something.
That should tell you. I mean, yes, that should tell you something.
There's evidence that each of these have beneficial effects. Just to look at two, this 2002 paper argues that taurine may be essential in certain circumstances, and creatine supplementation has benefits for brain function in adults like improving memory, intelligence, and mood, and it reduces the negative effects of sleep deprivation. Further, creatine is transferred from the mother to her baby during pregnancy, providing several benefits to the baby. The other thing is reality versus theories. In theory, you could take a retinol supplement, a B12 supplement, a zinc supplement, an algae-derived DHA supplement, a kelp-derived iodine supplement. You could take a vitamin D supplement or eat a ton of UV-exposed mushrooms. Then you can make sure that your plant sources of iron and calcium are low in oxalate. You could take substantial amounts of soy or pea protein powders to make up for the fact that most plant proteins are poorly absorbed and have lower amounts of amino acids, and so on and so on. But the reality is that the average person doesn't want to spend time worrying about nutrients. Again, meat is so nutrient dense that you can get a decent amount of well-absorbed zinc, iron, selenium, choline, various B vitamins, vitamin A, calcium, and other nutrients just eating a crappy cheeseburger. Ideally, people shouldn't eat crappy cheeseburgers, but the average busy person doesn't have time to craft the perfect meal. Convenience is important. This is evidenced by the fact that a 2021 paper found that the more people avoided animal products in their diet, the more they ate convenient, ultra-processed foods, with vegans eating the most processed foods. Looking at the updated Impossible Burger ingredient list, they basically swapped the animal protein with soy and the animal fat with sunflower oil and coconut oil. And they throw in several other vitamins to mimic the vitamin profile of meat. Eating tons of processed soy protein and vegetable oils like sunflower oil is totally new to the human stomach. Sunflower oil seems like a simple swap for animal fat, but they are totally different. Many animal fats can be a good source of vitamin K too, but vegetable oil in fact hampers the activity of vitamin K, making you need even more. It also
just to interject over here, fact checkers say the vegetable oil is good and healthy, and it's great for human health. Just
seed oils are good. Yeah.
Approved.
We covered that. Yeah, we have a whole episode talking about 5 reasons why seed oils are good. Check it out.
Yes.
Oxidizes very easily, so it will increase your need for the antioxidant vitamin E. Vegetable oil has several other negative effects, which I have talked about in another video.
The information about soy-based foods, it's been so confusing. Is it good for us? Is it bad for us?
The hormone-disrupting effects of increased soy consumption is somewhat controversial.
It's confusing by purpose, right? So you get tired of trying to figure out what's right and just say, screw it, let's just have it.
Yeah, lean on the expert consensus.
Yes, delegate your thoughts to those that are already expert.
But it may explain why a study on almost 8,000 boys found boys born to vegetarian mothers had a higher risk for a specific deformity in the genitals called hypospadias.
Soy has this plant-based estrogen, isoflavones.
Men think about the estrogen effects as well.
Soy contains the isoflavonoid genistein, which a 2022 meta-analysis found has detrimental effects on the male reproductive system. Lastly, Impossible Burger has tried to make the product taste meatier with something called soy leg hemoglobin from the roots of genetically modified soy plants. GMOscience.org writes that a 28-day study on rats commissioned by Impossible Foods in 2017 on soy leg hemoglobin found that soy leg hemoglobin caused statistically significant changes in weight gain, changes in the blood that can indicate the onset of inflammation or kidney disease, and possible signs of anemia in the rats. Further studies did eventually persuade the FDA to designate leg hemoglobin as safe. But Impossible Foods admitted that a quarter of their new ingredient was composed of 46 unexpected additional proteins, none of which were assessed for safety in the dossier. This reminds me of how we used to think that margarine was a good heart-healthy replacement for butter.
Bottom is natural margarine, 100% corn oil, low in saturated fat.
Then around 1956, we learned that the trans fats in margarine are ironically awful for heart health and health in general. But it wasn't until 2015 that the FDA finally acknowledged trans fats are unsafe to eat and need to be removed from the food supply.
I can't believe it's not butter.
I can't believe it's not butter.
You know, that's terrible, right? A few years later, a decade later, you realize, oh, this thing that they told me was safe to eat, it's suddenly not safe to eat.
Yeah, well, it was several decades later. I mean, it was until recently that they admitted trans fats are not healthy. Of course, people knew before that, but like, you know, if you're waiting on the authority to change their mind, you know, they're going to be the last ones to find out. They're going to be the last ones to change their stance. They're like the WHO and the AHA, they're not going to change their stances on red meat and saturated fats. They're going to be the last ones, if ever, to accept that, you know, the right view. But, you know, the main takeaway from here should be that anytime you try to come up with a synthetic or artificial food replacement, a food product to replace real food, you really opening up a whole can of worms like that. You don't know. You don't really know what's going to happen, and you know, you're seeing that. You've seen it with fake meat. Now we're going to see it with lab cultured meat. Now there's even people who are trying to grow lab cultured oil and pretend like it's healthier for you. You know, all of these are just doubling down on the same issue from before. And sure, we have seed oils that come from actual plants, actual seeds, but even then, as Joseph pointed out, they're completely foreign to the human stomach, as are large amounts of refined soy protein flour, like protein powder. Like these are just foods that we were never meant to consume in these forms.
Yeah.
This is another big issue with trying to replace animal foods. The replacement almost always comes with plenty of other stuff. Kidney beans need to be soaked and cooked to reduce the lectin content. Certain people can still be sensitive to the trace amounts of lectins in properly processed kidney beans.
The beans weren't much good anyway.
Many other plants have lectins too, but many commonly consumed plants have various other gut-aggravating compounds like oxalate, FODMAPs, gluten, or phytic acid. Phytic acid found in beans, seeds, nuts, and grains inhibits fat digestion and the absorption of calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, and zinc. How much? Well, this study found that about 35% less zinc is absorbed in a vegetarian diet. Fiber itself worsens the activity of pancreatic lipase, which is important for the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, and K2. A high intake of goitrogenic plants like cabbage, kale, and turnips can interfere with iodine functioning. Food scientist Dr. Frederick Leroy has written an extensive article on the various examples of why it's a challenge to acquire enough of certain nutrients just from plants, due to inhibiting compounds like these. This nutrient challenge is part of the reason why the German Nutrition Society in 2016 and the French-speaking pediatric HGN group in 2019 recommended against a vegan diet for adolescents, children, or mothers. Several studies have found that babies born to vegan mothers have a lower birth weight compared to babies of omnivore mothers. Birth weight can be a predictor of infant health and growth. In fact, one study that meticulously analyzed the records of 4,300 adults who were in the Danish medical birth register found that the lower their weight at birth, the shorter they would be as adults. This study points out that the growth of vegetarian children was adequate, but less than average. I wonder how people would react to a doctor saying, your son won't be as tall as he could be, but don't worry, his height will be adequate. This begs another question. What is the difference between enough nutrients and the optimal amount of nutrients? When you look at a nutrition label, it will tell you what % of your requirement for a nutrient that you're getting. This is called the RDA, but it's not set based on the optimal amount of a nutrient you should get. It's set based on determining how much is enough to prevent a deficiency. And then they recommend to get a little bit more than that. For example, that study on choline that I mentioned earlier found that pregnant women getting twice the RDA had beneficial effects on their babies. The adult RDA for vitamin D in the US is currently 600 IUs. However, the Endocrine Society suspects that not even 1,000 IUs would be enough to provide all the health benefits associated with vitamin D. They recommend about 3 times the RDA for adults, 1,500 to 2,000 IUs. In fact, vitamin K2's importance for bone health wasn't properly recognized until 1997. It wasn't even until 2006 that the USDA thought that it would be a good idea to look at the vitamin K2 contents of common foods. And today, there's still no RDA established for vitamin K2. So this isn't only a criticism of a plant-based diet. Obviously, the average person's omnivore diet needs to drastically improve. And nutrition isn't the only reason people choose to be vegan, but cutting out nutrient-dense animal foods doesn't seem like a move in the right direction for health. For 99% of human history, we relied on animal foods for nutrients. An animal food-containing diet has a strong track record that spans arguably over 1.7 million years. Various cultures viewed animal foods as important to growth, and despite the challenging circumstances they lived in, they were protected from infectious and chronic disease. And they enjoyed proper growth in their body, faces, and mouths. With that in mind, a plant-based diet is an experiment without any meaningful track record.
Especially when it comes to kids, I think it is a very risky thing.
It's been a couple decades at best that people have been doing purely vegan diets, yet so many people are already quitting for health reasons. So at the end of the day, science is a promising story of progress. Maybe one day we'll learn enough to make a sufficient plant-based replacement for animal foods, but I don't think it's happening anytime soon.
Yeah, wonderful piece from Joseph Everett. It's great to see his videos. I've always loved his videos, but you can just see, like, when he was like going through the journey, you can see how far he's come, starting from like learning about ketosis and about fasting. He made out like great content about that, like a long while ago, like 6-8 years ago. Then about the carnivore diet and about meat and the environment, and now he's talking about veganism. He's realizing from the other side of the world in Japan. Is just realizing just how pervasive these lies are. And really, why do we have to find a way to reinvent meat when, nature is the master engineer? Like, these problems are already solved. We don't need to create more problems for ourselves. We don't need to put children at risk of nutrient deficiencies. And, why did I have to get my wisdom teeth removed and have orthodontics? Why should my children face anything like that, right? Like, it's not the way we're meant to live. And the more we double down on these artificial approaches to fixing artificial problems, this is all man-made. And it doesn't have to be this way. It shouldn't be this way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like how he finished this by saying maybe science can take us there at some point, but like the question is there a problem? The answer is no. Like you said, it's all man-made. It's a man-made problem to think that animal foods are killing us. And therefore we're coming up with all these synthetic, artificial, fake things that are trying to replace the real things that the master engineer nature is already providing us humans. If anything, I'm very grateful for that carnivore diet. Start giving it a try, because it's made me realize that we can survive in nature by being closer to nature, by accepting the gift that nature is giving humans, which is animals and everything created under nature. Basically, I interpret it as a gift of nature to humans. Right? This is our earth. This is our realm. We exist here, and we are very clearly the beneficiaries of this, and we can continue benefiting from it the moment we start accepting it more. Not to get too philosophical here, but because
it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
I feel like because we're always addressing kind of like the science of it. We're always talking about, cholesterol is not killing you. It's not the LDL. It's not saturated fat. It's not meat. Has all the nutrients. It's high quality protein. Like we talk about this all the time, but we don't talk about like the philosophy of accepting our existence here and accepting that we are benefiting from. It's very clear. It's probably not clear to people, but it's very clear that we are. This place is here to benefit us, and we just have to accept it. Yeah.
Exactly, right. And you can see how things start to go wrong when you pervert the very own nature of nature, right? Like
yeah.
of what nature gives us. We're trying to pervert food. We're trying to pervert medicine. We've even gone as far as pervert the plant foods. I think it's easier to pervert the plant foods than it is to pervert the animal foods. At least that seems to be the case. I think animals, they are holy creatures in and of themselves, and they buffer a lot of the damage that the food industry wants does to our food. They buffer a lot of that for us, but clearly plant agriculture completely hijacked. If you want to expose yourself to glyphosate and Roundup and just herbicides, pesticides, insecticides, fungicides, all the sides, plant foods will be riddled with those. Even heavy metal toxicity exposure, even organic carrots, organic rice is going to test abnormally high for heavy metals in it. Lead, cadmium, mercury, arsenic. These things, that was actually like episode 1 or 2 that we talked about, heavy metals in baby food, even organic baby food. Babies are being poisoned with heavy metals now. And that's entirely a result of the industrialization or like the practices put in place by people who are trying to pervert nature. GMO soybeans, GMO crops. Corn is not exactly wheat is not exactly a GMO, but it has been modified by other non-gene splicing methods. It's completely made up food. Lots of the fruits today, there's multiple sweeter than what we used to consume in the past. And even then, people will say like the beef we eat today is different than the one before, and that is true. But perhaps it's the closest thing we have. And there's certainly evidence to indicate that we are meant to consume a lot of fat. Considering that before in the past, when humans were surviving through ice ages, we'd have large herbivores, mammoths and whales that we'd be eating. And that, the bigger the animal grows, the higher the proportion of fat of the whole carcass is. So, we get access to a whole lot more fat than before. Maybe that explains why we have modified animals to be fattier, right?
Yeah.
Lots to consider. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why we still to this day, right, we're trying to come up with new fat solutions or fat replacements, because we have the belief or the perception that fat is bad for you. animal fat is bad for you. But for whatever reason, plant fat is here to save you, which is very like physically impossible for someone to get out in the wild. But yeah, they're trying to substitute animal fat with plant fat. That clearly doesn't work. And now they're trying to substitute it with like that new product that you just called like lab grown, bacteria produced fat, which is what sort of monstrosity is that? Like, we're wasting all this time and effort and energy and money and resources on trying to replace what doesn't need replacement, trying to fix what's not broken.
Exactly. Going completely the other way, opposite direction. And, at least, I'll just say to these lab cultured oil people, at least lab cultured meat takes on the name lab cultured meat. But these guys, they're like, what they're doing is completely disingenuous. Pretending like they're like, they go on their website and they totally tiptoe around the fact that they're using GMO bacteria. Oh my God, we're gonna get it. If they ever hear this, we're gonna get sued. We have lots of trouble.
Mr. Anderson,
sorry, I'm back.
Big Oil got you.
Yeah, I mean, we have a message to share. We have a message worth spreading, and they should be afraid of what we have to say. So and you as the consumer, you should educate yourself on what is actually going on, right? At least lab cultured meat calls itself lab cultured meat, but the lab cultured oil is not calling itself lab cultured oil. They're trying to purport themselves as I don't even know what, just oil grown from the air.
And keep in mind that, right, trans fats, they had a good run of 20 years before or more. I
think it was maybe like 40 years. It was like a long time.
Yeah, so you sure? Yeah, right now, today, on paper, in theory, in fantasy world, this lab grown oil, it's like, oh, this is the savior that we don't deserve, whatever. And then 40 years down the line, actually, we got rich, and it's bad for you. And now what? You start eating this when you're in 20s. Now you're 60. What if you're 50 or 40? Right? That's a lot of time. That's a lot of time. A lot of, like, basically a lifetime of just eating suboptimal, unhealthy food, and then paying it with your life, basically. So, where we stand.
Exactly. Oh man, yeah.
Where we stand.
Great video from him, and why should we look for these alternatives to solve man-made problems? Why should we risk future generations being stunted, being shorter and being not having full-sized skulls, having cognitive problems, having autoimmune disease, having depression and anxiety? Why should we risk future generations to go through this when really it seems like these issues are indeed solved or caused, by nutrition?
Yeah.
How is that our moral imperative? I ask to the vegans when the data is pretty clear. Lack of animal foods leads to stunted growth, leads to deformed children. How is that saving the animals? This is really an agenda to just neutralize or make just completely stupefy people. Just make them dumb and make them useless and make them kill their testosterone, kill what makes them human, really it's an effort to lower consciousness. If you take consciousness as the driving force that makes us human, that includes everything mentioned before.
Yeah, no,
Nuts.
100%. Definitely an effort to lower consciousness, and it's interesting because we are definitely at a pivotal point, where the momentum is on the other side, but people are dropping off. as the video said, 84% of vegans are dropping off because they just cannot hold on to it. And once you drop off this belief and then you actually start eating animal foods, you can come back, at least mentally. But you know, the dentures, stunted growth, mental development, you know, that damage is done, right? So yeah, we're at a pivotal point. We have to turn the tide. We're turning the tide. Animals are here for us.
Yeah, in animal fats we trust. All right, Jay,
Animal
let's wrap
fats
this
we
one up.
Let's wrap this up. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for hanging in there with us. Really appreciate it. Really grateful for your time, attention, and I'm glad you're sticking around. We're glad you're sticking around. As always, make sure to follow, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube, like on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube, follow on Twitter or TikTok. And join our Discord. Join our Discord, chat with us over there. Weekly check-ins on Wednesday. And if you want to take your fitness to the next level using a carnivore diet or low carb approach, you know, hit us up for coaching. We got your back. Anything else,
All right.
Anderson?
That's it. Yeah, good night. See you, everyone.
With that said, wishing everyone a happy, healthy, and higher nutrient-dense era from here on forwards, forever and ever. Have a good night.
Gonna eat it.